Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be reading chapter 7, and let's get started. Chapter 7. The following hours were filled with emotion Bakugo didn't even know how to deal with. They were most likely filled with unsteady silence. Besides the time Misuki whirled questions after questions at her son, which uneventfully ended up with him whispering about he didn't know. He now sat with his head in his hands, looking down at the worn-down wooden dining table. He still was trying to comprehend what he had just witnessed. First, Deku's father was abusive? Okay, he assumed that much from the bruises and cuts Izuku would suddenly come to school with, but that bad? I mean, the man was about to kill his fucking son, for crying out loud. Second, Izuku's suicidal? I mean, Bakugo had also assumed that, but it never even proved right in front of his own eyes. Third, Inko was also depressed and suicidal. This was news. To say the least, Bakugo hadn't even seen Inko for at least a year, but he still would never expected someone as bubbly and joyful as Inko Midoriya to get to a breaking point. I mean, he also didn't expect Izuku to get to this point, but here we are. He growled, more out of confusion than anything else, and glanced through his laced-together hands. He shuddered at the sight of the disheveled boy lying across from him. Blood still dried on his forehead and hands. Now Bakugo saw what he had been pushing to the very, very back of his mind for the past month. Bruises littered the greenette's face and neck. Now that Mizuki had taken off his shirt so she could clean up some of the other wounds, Bakugo was able to see some of the things Izuku had tried to desperately hide from view. Scars scattered along his purple and blue back. He covered his eyes once again, not wanting to see that god-awful scene again. He blew out a shudder breath, rubbing his eyes, trying to fight the urge to look back at his childhood friend. That's when he heard it. It was barely even a whisper, but it shook Bakugo to his core. Why did you save me? Why didn't you just leave me to die, Kachan? Fuck this. Fuck everyone. Fuck this goddamn world. Bakugo was not about to hear that shit come out of Deku's mouth. Why? He growled, causing the boy on the table to flinch. Why? Do you expect me to just fucking stand by when I hear someone fucking screaming for help? I'm not a goddamn monster, he frowned, crossing his arms. But it's me who said it. Deku's hand crumbled back into the hardwood. So? Bakugo raised one eyebrow, not completely understanding the context of what Deku had just said. You knew it was me. You came in screaming my name. A hollow, almost silent chuckle ran through the tiny boy. Why does that matter? It was still a scream, and you definitely wanted to be saved, so shut the fuck up and be grateful, he huffed, turning away. Izuku opened his mouth to respond, but just then Bakugo's phone started going off, text after text after text. It seemed never-ending. Bakugo didn't want to look at it since the notifications were from the birthday chat his classmates had created the mindset that Bakugo would actually talk in it. The loud buzzing from an incoming call made Bakugo finally tear his phone out of his pocket and answer it. What the fuck do you want? What the fuck do you want? He was caught off by fucking floaty roundface. Have you seen Deku? I was going over to his house and hoped to have a sleepover before his birthday, but he's not here, and it was a mess. Stuff was everywhere. Have you seen him? She sounded terrified and worried. Her voice almost had a hollow and cold tone to it, as if she expected Bakugo did in fact know. Yes, he's with me. Why the fuck do you he got cut off again, but this time it was by the front door swinging open, welcoming a sweaty, panting, tired-looking Uraraka. Her eyes scanned side to side, taking in Bakugo's house. He nearly dropped his phone, screaming out, cussing at her. Then she spotted Deku and came running up to him, only to stop about around 3 feet, and at the sight of him laying on the table. She looked at Bakugo with pure hate burning in her eyes. Oh, come fucking on. You think I did this shit too? I'll have you fucking know I was the one that fucking saved him from that bastard that did this shit, he screamed, just as much hatred being poured into every word. She froze, looking bewildered at Bakugo and Izuku. You didn't? Then what happened? She walked up to Izuku, grabbing his hand. He groaned, looking at his friend, then hissed from the bright light above him. He can tell you his goddamn self, Bakugo huffed, turning around. Although he didn't leave. He, for some weird reason, didn't want to leave. The weak, hurt boy. Uraraka caught this and turned to him, and a smirk formed on her lips. What? Bakugo hissed, with clenched fist, battling daggers at the grinning girl. Oh, nothing, she yelled, waving her hands around, stifting a bust of laughter. Hey, brats, what's all the noise? Izuku's meant to be... Mizuki stopped mid-sentence when she noticed the other presence in the room. Hello? She said, confused to this random girl who was in her house. Uraraka chimed and skipped over to her, taking Mizuki's hand in a firm grip. Uraraka, Uraraka, I'm one of Izuku's friends. Her smile flattered as she glanced behind her, once again taking the terrible damage affected on the poor boy. She let go of Mizuki's hand, letting her arm sluggishly drape to her side. What happened to him? She breathed, looking hopefully at Bakugo's mother. Mizuki looked hesitant at her son, as if he would answer for her. Well, Koski, dear, hadn't really, told me yet. She looked over Uraraka's shoulder to Izuku. He was now propped up on one elbow, groaning as the light hit his eyes once again. I guess we can ask Izuku now. Mizuki strutted over to the delicate boy, taking a seat on one of the chairs opposite from him. He looked hesitant, and Uraraka, Mizuki and Bakugo, not sure. He looked hesitant at Uraraka, Mizuki, and Bakugo, not sure if he should answer. Deep down, he really didn't want to. He wanted this to just go away. He wanted this to be a bad dream that he would wake up from. He didn't want to tell anyone that had happened to him. He really didn't want to be pitted or yelled at for being weak. All his words clumped helplessly at his throat. He tried to force them out, but when he opened his mouth, no sound came out. He dropped his eye down to the scarred hand. He took his other hand with one gentle finger, outlined each cut and bruise that littered his palm. He twirled his thumbs together in a way of fighting off his anxiety. Then he let his body go limp. A deep sigh escaped from his cut lip. I don't think I'm ready to talk about it yet. Tears dared to drip from his emerald eyes. Dropping silently to the table, Uraraka was first to act. She moved to Izuku, grabbing his hands in hope of comforting him. He didn't make eye contact with her. He simply curled in a ball, legs tight to his chest. She tried to grab his hand again, but he pushed her away, jumping off the table. Bakugo stared in bewilderment at the tiny green-haired boy. In bewilderment at the tiny green-haired boy who just fucking jumped off the table with injuries that could leave a normal person bedbound for weeks. What the fuck? He breathed, wide-eyed. Izuku didn't take anyone few seconds of Izuku didn't take anyone's few seconds of confusion for granted. He began booking it to the door, even though his body ached and pain came shooting through every muscle in his body. He just wanted to get out of what at least Izuku would call an embarrassing situation. In Izuku's discomfort, however, Bakugo was much faster than him. He easily was able to grab the disheveled teen, stopping him in his tracks. And where in the blazing hell do you think you're going? It came out less stern than Bakugo would have hoped. It almost sounded gentle. Izuku had snapped back, his wide eyes meeting the slitted one of Bakugo's. He tried to speak, but once again the words got caught hopelessly at the tip of his tongue. The large teen hummed in response to Izuku's struggle. The blonde swung his arm under the smaller male, picking him up bridal style. Izuku squeaked in surprise. What? Bakugo plopped him down on one of the wooden chairs. Izuku huffed, discouraged that his escape plan didn't work out as he would have hoped. Bakugo took the seat beside him, glaring daggers at Izuku. While all this happened, Mizuki and Uraraka stared at each other in both confusion and shock. Now fucking shitting nerd, do you mind explaining what the fuck I witnessed? Bakugo roared as the tiny teen flinched. Izuku looked at Uraraka in desperation. He really didn't want to explain that to Bakugo. He knew he would just get yelled at for being weak and not telling anyone about it. He knew how it feels to be in this situation. He knew how it felt to have a full-fledged, deadly fighter in your house. If you do one wrong thing or anything to begin with, you get beaten down to the ground. If you told anyone and everyone would go down with you. Izuku looked back, meeting the glare of Bakugo's ruby eyes. Damn, those eyes are really pretty. Izuku, no. Izuku's eyes widened at his own thought. Now his fight or flight reflex kicked in, and he braced himself to dash out of the door. But to Izuku's distaste, Bakugo was once again faster than him. This time, however, Bakugo didn't just place Izuku in one of the chairs. He placed Izuku on his lap. Oh, fuck. Izuku shrieked out in surprise, trying to get out of the teen's grasp. What the fuck is happening? Bakugo held the teen to his chest, his head atop the other green locks. I'll let you go when you fucking answer me, he snarled. Tightening his grip, Izuku sat still, confused, flustered, and very, very scared. His face was red as Bakugo's eyes. And he tried one last time to get out of Bakugo's grasp. Now the other side of the table, Mizuki and Uraraka both were sitting there, both terrified for Izuku and very much confused. To begin with, when on earth had Bakugo done that? When on earth had Bakugo done that to anyone? When was that the way to get people to talk? This was the first time Mizuki had saw her son touch someone without burning them to a crisp. Uraraka, the other hand, was holding back a chuckle. Even with the situation, seeing Izuku that flustered was both adorable and hilarious. Kachan? Kachan, let me go. You saw it with your own eyes, Izuku grumbled, trying his best not to make eye contact with Mizuki or Uraraka, who were staring in his soul. They didn't see. Bakugo unclenched one of his hands and pointed across the table at his mother and Uraraka. So it's not... Bakugo flicked him on the forehead. I swear to fucking God, if you're about to say it's not important, then I'll fucking send you back to your father. He growled, snaking his hand back over Izuku. He growled, snaking his hand back over Izuku's. He growled, snaking his hand back over Izuku's chest, creating a tight grip once again. I'll say if you let me go. Izuku squeezed his eyes shut, trying to get his face to be a normal color again and not bright red. Bakugo complied very hesitantly and let the boy go, placing him on the chair next to him. Izuku sat there for a moment, too embarrassed to speak. Uraraka finally spoke up after several minutes of awkward silence. He could tell us if he feels comfortable. She glanced at Izuku's thankful eyes. But I think we should go. We have a birthday to get ready for. Her smile came back, although it wasn't as bright as it usually was. Bakugo gave her the death glare. What the fuck? He's in... No... Uraraka huffed, crossing her arms. Stop being an overprotective boyfriend. Let the boy feel better. Come on. A birthday with his friends is sure to at least make him feel a little better, Uraraka yelled, slapping her hand together. What the fuck did you just say to me? Bakugo's ears had turned pink, and he crossed his arms. What? Uraraka said innocently, blinking her wide eyes like she hadn't said anything weird just moments before. You gotta be fucking kidding me, Bakugo grumbled, getting out of his chair. Fuck it, I don't give a shit. And with that, he left the room, slamming the door dramatically behind him. Uraraka clapped satisfyingly with his reaction and grabbed Izuku's hand. Come on, I promise it'll be fun, Uraraka yelled. Her smile widened. Izuku simply glanced up, unsure if he really can believe that. Fine. And with that, Uraraka and Izuku were on their way to the dorms where Uraraka still lived. Isn't this going to be an interesting weekend?